And welcome to today's video. This is a B1 level ESL lesson, and today we're going to be learning about defining and non-defining relative clauses. So do you enjoy live music? And when was the last time you went to a concert? Have you ever seen your favorite band play live? Have you ever seen a live band on TV? And when was the first time you saw a live band or performer? Where was it, and who did you go with? And we use the adjective or adverb live to describe things in progress, such as live sports, live music, or a live radio program. We use it to describe a performance where the artist is physically present as opposed to a recorded performance. And you can answer these questions in the comments in order to generate some conversation. All right, so now you're going to match the two halves to make a sentence. So go ahead and pause the video, try that on your own, and then restart when you are ready to check your answers. So there is a man in a baseball cap who is singing into a microphone. There's a man in a white tank top who is playing the guitar. There is a woman who is playing the drums, and there are people who are dancing to the live music. So we use defining relative clauses in a sentence to give specific information about a noun. So again, you're going to make some full sentences with defining relative clauses. So again, you can pause the video, try these on your own, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. A percussionist is a person who plays the drums. A vocalist is a person who sings. A concert hall is a place where you can listen to music. The 1990s was a time when electric dance music became popular, and a microphone is a device which projects a person's voice. So who, that, and which. Let's take a closer look at how we use who, that, and which. So a relative defining clause always follows the noun that it modifies. So she is a student who will become a famous scientist one day. So who will become a famous scientist one day is the relative defining clause, and it's defining the noun student. Hassan ate the pizza that was on the table. Here, the defining relative clause, that was on the table, is describing the noun pizza. If the relative defining clause defines thing, we can use that, which, or that. There will be a plane that can fly nonstop from London to Auckland, or there will be a plane which can fly nonstop from London to Auckland. If the relative defining clause describes a person, we can use who or that. Simone is a student who has a very bright future. Simone is a student that has a very bright future. So a defining relative clause can be used to give more information about something. And look at how the relative adjective joins the two sentences. There's a girl in my class. The girl in my class can speak 3 languages. There is a girl in my class who can speak 3 languages. So the word who joins the two clauses, and the second clause gives more details about the girl. So now make a sentence with a defining relative clause. You can pause the video, try this on your own, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. So number 1, Jake is a singer using either who or that, has performed for more than 15 years. The piano is an instrument that or which was invented around 1655. U2 is a famous Irish band, either that or which was formed in 1976. Madonna is a performer, who's either who or that has changed pop music. And the electric guitar is an instrument that or which changed music in the 20th century. So it takes a while to use defining relative clauses, but they're essential for a good level of English. Now you can go ahead and make more sentences. Again, you can pause the video, try these on your own, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, the volta is a kind of dance that was popular during the Renaissance. Poetry slam is a sort of competition which is always performed live on stage. Hamlet is a tragedy which was written by Shakespeare. Public Enemy is a hip-hop band that formed in New York City in 1986. Mozart was a classical composer who died at age 35. The saxophone is an instrument which is closely associated with jazz music. La Traviata is an opera by Giuseppe Verdi, which is set in Paris. And Edith Piaf was a famous singer who had a unique voice. Blues, which is always plural, is a genre of music which comes from the southern states of the United States of America. Blues is a genre that was developed around 1870 by African Americans. It uses instruments such as the guitar, harmonica, piano, and drums. The name blues may come from to have the blues, an expression that describes a feeling of sadness. And are you familiar with any blues music? So you want to go to a blues festival this year, and what information do you need to know before you make a choice? So here we have some posters. This one, it's the Upton Blues Festival. It's free, but it doesn't really tell you much more about when or where it is. The Byron Bay Blues Fest, it's on the 25th of May. It's also free, and it tells which bands or artists are performing, featuring the John Butler Trio, Snarky Puppy, and the Cat Empire. And then the Chicago Blues Festival, but it doesn't really give any other information about when or specifically where in Chicago it is. So now you're going to read about the festival and answer the questions. You can pause the video and read on your own, or you can follow along as I read. Upton Blues Festival is a music festival which is held every year in July in Upton-on-Severn in the UK. The first festival, which took place in 2002, was quite small, and gigs were held in a few local pubs. Since then, the festival has grown dramatically, and last year there were 3 stages, 10 local pub venues, and over 130 free performances. Some of the most popular gigs included Blue Moon and Jack the Biscuit, and we are pleased to confirm that they will be returning this year. So look at the 2 clauses in bold. One of them is a defining relative clause, which you have already looked at at this lesson, and the other is a non-defining relative clause. And can you tell which is which? Okay, so Upton Blues Festival is a music festival which is held every year in July in Upton-on-Severn. So this one is describing when what the music festival is, and the first festival, which took place in 2002, that one really isn't defining. It gives you some additional information about the first festival, but it really doesn't tell what the festival is. So the first one is the defining relative clause, and the second one is the non-defining relative clause. All right, so let's take a look at another type of relative clause, the non-defining relative clause. In a defining relative clause, the information is necessary to understand the sentence. So, do you know the composer who wrote the Four Seasons? If we remove the relative clause, the sentence doesn't make sense, or it has a different meaning. So, do you know the composer? Well, which composer are you talking about? The composer who wrote the Four Seasons. We need this information in order for the whole sentence to make sense. In a non-defining relative clause, extra information is given, it can be removed, and the sentence remains logical. The composer Vivaldi, who wrote the Four Seasons, was born in Venice in 1678. And in writing, we use a comma at the beginning and end of a non-defining relative clause. So if you remove it, you have the composer Vivaldi was born in Venice in 1678. The sentence still makes sense. We just don't have the extra information that Vivaldi wrote the Four Seasons, but that doesn't change the fact that he was born in Venice in 1678. All right, so remember that a non-defining relative clause introduces non-essential information. We use a non-defining relative clause to provide extra information. Non-defining relative clauses often appear in the middle of a sentence, but not always. The band, which formed in 1993, will perform at the music festival. We enjoyed listening to Edith Piaf, who is the most well-known French singer. In speech, we use different intonation with different clauses. The two concert tickets, which I bought online, cost $45 each. I've only bought 2 concert tickets recently. Note the pause in speech and the rising and falling intonation. Okay, and we'll listen to the recording here so you can hear the difference in intonation.
The two concert tickets, which I bought online, cost $45 each. The 2 concert tickets, which I bought online, cost $45 each. The man who is playing the guitar is a friend of mine. The man who is playing the guitar is a friend of mine. The band, which played at 8 p.m., was really talented. The band that played at 8 p.m. was really talented.
Okay, so hopefully you can hear the slight differences in the intonation, the rise and fall in the person's voice as they spoke with the defining and non-defining relative clauses. All right, so now read about the festival and answer the questions. Again, you can pause the video, read these on your own, or follow along as I read. The Byron Bay Blues Fest, which used to be known as the East Coast International Blues and Roots Music Festival, was first established in 1990. This Australian festival is held during the Easter long weekend, so the exact date varies from year to year. The lineup, which has grown considerably over the last 30 years, has featured well-known Australian bands such as the John Butler Trio and Snarky Puppy. Another band which has been delighting Australian audiences for many years is Melbourne band The Cat Empire. So are the relative clauses in bold defining or non-defining? So the easiest way is probably to remove them and see if the sentence still makes sense. So the Byron Blues Fest was first established in 1990. Yeah, so that one is a non-defining relative clause because you can, the sentence still makes sense without this extra information. The lineup has featured well-known Australian bands such as the John Butler Trio and Snarky Puppy. Again, you can take that out and it doesn't really change the meaning of the sentence. Another band is Melbourne band The Cat Empire. So again, I think all of these are non-defining relative clauses. All right, so now read the clauses and see if you can use the correct intonation, and then you'll listen and check. Here are a couple of notes. We do not use that to introduce a non-defining relative clause. We use who for people and which for things in non-defining relative clauses. So go ahead, pause the video, read these aloud, and then restart to listen to see if your intonation matches the intonation in the audio.
The singer who always wears dark glasses was born in London. The singer who always wears dark glasses was born in London. The violin that sold for $3 million was made in 1720. The violin, which sold for $3 million, was made in 1720. The performance that took place in New York was the highlight of the band's career. The performance, which took place in New York, was the highlight of the band's career.
All right, so have a look at some more examples to help you use defining or non-defining relative clauses. My brother who studies in Kiev wants to be a lawyer. So this would mean that I'm talking about one of my two brothers. My brother who studies in Kiev wants to be a lawyer. So you have another brother who studies somewhere else. My brother who studies in Kiev wants to be a lawyer. So here you only have one brother, but you're just giving extra information that he studies in Kiev and also wants to be a lawyer. Their mother, who is a doctor, is also a talented musician. You only have one mother, so the information to the clause is additional. So it'll take some time to learn to use defining and non-defining relative clauses, so we'll practice a little more. All right, so read about the third festival, and then you'll complete the text with who or which. And you can try that on your own, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. And then you can answer the question, are there relative clauses defining or non-defining? Okay, so Muddy Waters, who is known as the father of Chicago blues, died in 1983. The Chicago Blues Festival started the following year in his memory. The festival, which is said to be the largest free concert of its kind, is held in June every year. Originally, it took place in Grant Park, but it moved to nearby Millennium Park in 2017. Famous musicians who have appeared at the festival over the years include Bonnie Raitt, as well as the late B.B. King and the late Bo Diddley. Okay, so are the relative clauses defining or non-defining? Well, Muddy Waters, non-defining. The festival, which is said to be the largest free concert of its kind, is also non-defining. But here, who would be defining, who have appeared at the festival over the years. That's a defining relative clause. All right, so now complete each sentence with a defining or non-defining relative clause, and you can use your imagination. There's not any one correct answer, so you can just try these on your own. And then if you'd like to see some sample answers, you can restart the video. So here they said the singer who has released a lot of recordings is famous in many countries. My brother who studied finance works in Dallas, Texas. I have 3 tickets, which I bought last week. And again, these aren't the only answers you can have. Again, these are just some sample answers. The Performing Arts Center, which was designed by a famous architect. It's a popular place for rock concerts. Montreal, which is a French-speaking city in North America, hosts a famous jazz festival each year. I'm going to see the band that was famous 10 years ago. Do you remember the singer who died in a plane crash? And Jack Desmond, who was famous in the 1960s. Could also play the guitar and piano. All right, so now make a sentence with a defining or non-defining relative clause and use the information provided and add any extra words. Again, you could pause the video, try these on your own, and then restart when you're ready to see some sample answers. So Janet, who is the vocalist in a rock group, is from London. Steve, who is performing this weekend, used to play with the Encounter. Chicago, which hosts many music festivals every year, is famous for jazz. And Angelica, who plays the flute, studied in New York. She composes her own music. All right, so now see if you can make some correct sentences using who, that, or which, and decide where the relative clause should go in the sentence. And it says for some sentences, more than one answer is possible. So pause the video, try that on your own, and then restart when you're ready to see some possible answers. So I enjoy music that makes me feel relaxed. My father said he enjoyed the live music program that was on the radio last night. She's a talented musician who studied at a famous school in New York. Do you think we can buy a ticket for the guy who is performing at Town Hall next weekend? The composer, who died in 1903, is famous for his symphonies. She listens to music that helps her study. You really should listen to the band that played at a concert last week. And we don't know the name of the man who was playing the saxophone. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, leave comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.